Hello and welcome to fourth Java training video. As usual, we are going to focus on aspects of Java or the features of Java programming language which are very essential to write Selenium tests. So let's see what we are going to learn in this session. Okay, so here we are. In this session we will learn more about classes, objects and methods. So we will see access specifiers, we will see method, instance methods and class methods. We will see how method overloading works. We will also see passing variable arguments to a method. We will see how value can be returned from a method, how we can use this keyword, and we would also see static initializer. So let's begin with. So first point here is the access specifier. So in Java we have four types of access specifier. We have public, we have protected, we have no modifier, which means package. So if we do not specify any access specifier, then it means package, and then we have private. In this case, public members of a class will have access to everybody, that is to the class, to the package, to any subclass. We saw subclass while studying inheritance and whole world. Protected members will have access to the access within class, package, subclass, but not to anyone else. Package members or no modifiers would have access within class, within package, but not through inheritance or rest of the world. And then we have private, which are accessible, private members which are accessible only within the class. Let's see an example of it. So I have modified our test program a little bit. So I have created a package here called classes and objects, and then we have Google homepage class. So let's see what we have in this class. So in this class I have first declared instance variable which are private. So remember one thing, that whenever you declare an instance variable, keep it private. This is also one of the important aspect of encapsulation, which deals with data hiding. So you do not expose your data to entire world, you keep it private, and then you provide some accessor methods to carry out operations on the data, provided the operation or whatever conditions you may like to have are satisfied. So coming back to our program or our class Google homepage, we have first a static variable which is defined with access specifier private, which means this variable or instance variable is available only within this class. It is a static, it means that it is associated with the class and not with any instance of the class. It is final, then in Java it means it's a constant now. So static final is a constant and it is of type string, and its name is test underscore name. So this is how constants are defined in Java. All letters are caps, and if there are multiple words, then they are concatenated or joined using underscore. So this is our first static variable. Is not an instance variable, and its value is Google test with Selenium. So this is a constant string. And then we have two instance variables which are again of type private, and they are by object. So this by object is from Selenium server jar file, which we had added here in second session, I suppose. And here we have two by instance variable. So we are initializing these by variables here by using the by class and the static member here. So static methods are invoked on the class name. So by class dot name of the method, and then we pass the argument. This is how we identify the search box in Google. It is having name HTML name Q, so we identify it using by.nameQ, and then we have search button. So this is something which we are identifying using the CSS selector. How do we write that? We say button name equal to button K. If you find any difficulty in learning or in understanding these selectors, then I would recommend you to watch my first training video of Selenium, which is available on my website seleniumtest.com. Okay, so we have three members here. We have one static variable and two instance members. Now let's see how we are providing access to these members. So as I said, that we can add the accessor methods. So in case of a static variable, this is this accessor method for a static variable. Its type is static. It means if someone needs to know the test name, then it can be invoked on the class name. We will see it a little later in our program. And then we have accessor method for search box and search button here. So this is defined as public. So this method is public, anyone can access it. It returns a by object, which is nothing but a search box, which we declared here. And in case of second method, we are returning the search button. All right, so this explains the access specifier. Now, as well as the static members. Now let us see some examples for the methods in the class and the overloaded method and passing variable arguments. So in this class we have declared one method now. This method is search. So this method takes two arguments. I have declared them final, which means that these arguments cannot be changed. So they are final, which is why they are called final here. Okay, so this method has two arguments. It takes Firefox driver, which of course drives the Firefox browser, and then the search term. So search term is like test data, which we will use to search on Google. And then we have couple of printer statements which I use just to distinguish different lines, and then we are printing our search term here. Now how do we write search term in a text box? So we will get Firefox driver instance from here, and then we invoke a method called find element, and find element needs a locator. So if I highlight this method, it needs a by object. So where do we get by object from our get search box method. So this is the method which is defined here, and then we call another method which is clear. It means that we get the access to the Google search box and then we clear it. So if there is any test data by default, then it would be emptied. It is as good as going to Google and manually going to Google, bringing control on the search box, and then manually hitting the backspace key so that everything is clear. So now when we have clean search box, then we are passing the test data to it. So syntax till here is same as what we have in the above statement, and the method is send keys. So instead of clear, we use the method send keys, and then we pass the search term, which is our test data here. So this is how we have defined one method. This method does not return any argument or any variable, hence it is void, and this is used to perform a search using search term of type string. Now let's see another method. Okay, so this is another method which has the same name. So this method is also search. So this is what is called overloading. So we have another method with the same name, but if you have a look at the arguments, they differ here. So first argument is here Firefox driver, which is same as the first method, but second argument is integer, it's not a string. And this is how compiler can distinguish between two different methods, because compiler knows now, depending on how we call the method, whether it has to call first method or the second method. Alright, rest of the syntax looks same till here, in fact till here, but then we have some difference here. So what we are doing here is we are converting the search term into a string object. How do we do that? In the string class we have a value of method, so we use this method and then we pass integer data type to it, so it would get converted into a string. Alright, and now we have another method which is again search method. It means this method is again overloaded, but let's see what is different here. So this method also takes Firefox driver, but if you see here we have a special notation here. It takes a string, but there are three dots after this. This is called the variable argument. It means we can pass any number of arguments to this method, any number of string arguments, and then we can treat this as an array. So in the second or third session we saw how we can use for each loop, and we will have a look at this again here. So we have variable argument here, and then in this method what we do here, first we create a web element object, because we would like to pass different data to Google search box. So we have Firefox driver.find element, and then we pass the by object here, so we get the web element object. Now this is for each loop syntax which we had seen earlier also, so it should be easy to understand. So we pass the search term here, which we get from whoever is calling our method, and then we have a string data type here. Now for each value of search term, we are typing the search term in the search text box, as simple as that. So in previous method we had just one test data, but in this method we can have multiple data sets. Okay, so when I invoke these methods from our test class, I think it will be more clear. Let's see what we have covered so far. Okay, so we have covered passing variable argument, and then let's see returning value from a method. So this is an example of returning value from a method. So we have search result button, and I will get the text out of this. So how do I do that? I again use the Firefox driver, I find the element, and then there's a method called getText, and then I assign this string to button element, and then button label, and then I return the button label. Alright, let's move on. Let's see this keyword and static initializer. All right. So I have another class here called Google search result page. So in this method, I have a public instance, sorry, private instance variable, which is WebDriver. Now, if I want to use this class, I would first have to initialize this instance variable, and this is something which is done in a constructor. So how do we define a constructor for a class? This is the constructor of the class, which has the same name as the name of the class, and it may or may not take argument. In our case, we are passing WebDriver object to it, and then we are initializing the WebDriver here. How do we do that? So we use this word here, this keyword. We say this dot WebDriver equal to WebDriver. So this is the WebDriver. Now why do we use this here? This refers to the current object of the class. Now if we do not use this here, for example, if I remove this, then compiler would be confused. Compiler doesn't know which WebDriver is being assigned to which variable, because this WebDriver and this WebDriver have the same name. Hence we have to use this keyword here. All right. And then and then we have two static members here for the class, and these are being initialized in a static block. So if you want to initialize static members, then you can also do them in a static block. How do we write a static block? It is written as keyword static and then parenthesis, and then we can assign the values to the static members. And then we have two more methods here using which we are returning the values of the static members. So these are static methods, and they are returning the string data sets. All right, let's see our test class now. So this is our test class, which is similar to our previous test classes. We have a main method here, and then we initialize the Firefox driver here. We set the timeout period. So if element is not available on the page for a certain time, then Firefox driver should wait for at least 10 seconds, and then we launch the Google homepage. Okay, now we are instantiating the Google homepage class, which is the first class. And how do we instantiate it? We have the class name followed by name of the object followed by new keyword followed by name of the class in parentheses. We had seen this earlier as well, so it should be easy. Then we have couple of print statements, and then what we are doing. After this, we are calling the getTestName method. So you remember, getTestName is a static method. Hence, I am able to invoke it using the class name. I do not have to use any instance of the class here because it is a static member and it can be called on the class name. Okay, let's see a couple of other statements here. Now we are using the Google homepage object instance, and then we are calling search method. So this is the first search method wherein we pass the string argument. So control will go from here to here, wherein we have the data type as a string. And then we have another search where we are passing the integer type argument. So control will go from this method to this overloaded search method where we have data type as integer. Alright, and then we have our final method wherein we had variable arguments being used, which was the last search method with variable arguments, that is type of the argument followed by 3 dots. So how do we pass data to this now? So we can pass an array to it. So we saw in previous sessions how to create an array. So I have created an array of type string here. Its length is 3, and we had seen that array indexing begins with 0. So I initialize it as string array 0. I assign a string Firefox driver to it, then 1 which is Chrome driver, and then 2 which is IE driver, and then I perform Google home page.search. So this is the instance of the search method, and the control will come to the implementation which uses variable argument. Alright, and then what I do, I go back to the Google home page, and then I get the search label. So this is the method which returns the argument of type string, and then control comes here, we get the string, and then we are printing the string. After this, I am also instantiating Google search result page, and I am passing Firefox driver to it, which was our second method. So this control comes here, and WebDriver is initialized. Though in this case, we are not using the object anywhere. Alright, and after this, we have couple of more print statements, and we are getting the value of test data 1 and test data 2. So these are the static members which we had initialized in the static block. So let's run this program and see how it goes. And I have put couple of debug points here so that we can see it happening slowly, otherwise Selenium is very quick. So I will run it in debug mode. it has begun now, and we should see Firefox coming up in a while. And here comes the Firefox, here comes the Google. Okay, so control comes back to first debug point. Let me move it to a side so that we can see more. So first search term is Selenium headquarters, so we would see Selenium headquarters being typed. Yeah, and next search term is 123, but since we clear the text box, so first text box would be cleared, and then we would see 123 being typed, and then we have our search label, and then we have our string array being typed. So I'll keep one more debug point here, and then we will see Firefox, Chrome, and IE WebDriver being typed. Okay, so this happened and it was pretty quick. Then it comes to the home, control comes to the home page, and we have button label being read, and then this value would be printed. Alright, so test is over now. Well, not really, it's not really a test. We are just using Selenium to drive the browser. We are not carrying out any assertion here, so I cannot call it a test. Now let's see what's happening on the console. So let's come back to our first print statement. So this is our first print statement in which we get the test name. So test name is printed here, which is Google test with Selenium, which is something which we defined in our first class. Yeah, here it is, Google test with Selenium. And then we have second print statement, which is here. Yep. So we have search happening here and search happening here. So if we go to this method, yeah, so we have search using search term Selenium headquarters, and then we have search term using, well, data which is 123, which we are passing from our test class. Alright, let's come down, and then we have search using the variable argument. So control comes here, and then we are printing the test data here again. So we say search using multiple data sets, and then we have test data being printed here, which comes from this line. So we have test data Firefox driver, Chrome, and IE driver. Alright, let's go back to our test class, and then we have button label being returned here, and then return value is printed here. So return value is Google Suche, which is in German. If you are on English Google, then you will see Google search or something similar. Alright, and then finally we are printing the values of our static members from Google search result page class. So we had initialized them here. So they are test data 1 and test data 2, which are software testing and performance testing. So these are the values which are printed here. Yeah, so this was a small test. So let's see if something else is pending. No, we have covered all. We have covered excessive specifier, method, overloaded method, variable argument, return value, this keyword, and static initializer. Alright, so this brings us to an end of our fourth Java training session. I hope you find it useful and you try it yourself, and if you have any question, then you post it in forum, which I have on my website seleniumtest.com. Good luck with learning. Bye bye.